The first sign that humanity was not alone came not with a bang, but with a whisper. Dr. Elena Reyes hunched over her terminal at the Arecibo Auxiliary Facility, the replacement for the once great radio telescope that had collapsed decades earlier. Her eyes burned from 18 straight hours of analysis, but she couldn't look away from the pattern on her screen. A pattern that shouldn't exist. "You're seeing things again, Elena," she muttered to herself, reaching for her lukewarm coffee. Her colleagues had long since gone home, leaving her alone with the enigmatic signal captured during a routine survey of Barnard's star. 3 years ago, she published a paper theorizing that truly advanced civilizations would communicate through quantum entanglement rather than electromagnetic radiation. The academic ridicule had been swift and merciless. Reyes' quantum fairy tale, they'd called it. Her funding had dried up, her teaching position at MIT quietly not renewed. Yet here it was, a signal pattern that matched her predictions exactly. Her hands trembled as she initiated the secondary confirmation protocol. If she was wrong again, what remained of her career would be finished. The lab's ancient printer whirred to life, spitting out page after page of diagrams, mathematical formulas, and most incredibly, one appeared to be precisely arranged geometric symbols. "Holy shit," she whispered, reaching for her phone. Before she could dial, every screen in the lab flickered simultaneously. The facility's emergency lights activated as the main power grid failed. Her phone went dead in her hand. Outside, through the reinforced windows, she saw it, a shimmering distortion hovering above the dish array, like heat waves on asphalt, but moving with deliberate precision. As she watched, transfixed, the distortion coalesced into a perfect sphere of swirling light that pulsed with colors she couldn't name. The quantum beacon she'd theorized, but never hoped to see. 12 hours later, Elena found herself rushed through Pentagon corridors flanked by stone-faced military officers. Her evidence, hastily packed into her battered briefcase, had triggered protocols established decades ago, but never activated. They'd been expecting this, she realized, noting how smoothly the machinery of government had shifted into gear. This wasn't panic. This was practiced. General Harris, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, didn't stand when she entered the Situation Room. His eyes remained fixed on the multiple displays showing the now visible beacon, which had relocated to lunar orbit after its brief appearance at Arecibo. "Dr. Reyes," he said without preamble, explain to the president why this is different from the other 9 false alarms since 1957. Elena opened her briefcase, removed her papers, and spoke the words that would change human history forever. "Mr. President, the beacon isn't broadcasting a message. It is the message. And it's been on the dark side of the moon for approximately 12,000 years, waiting for us to advance enough to notice it." She laid out the preliminary translation matrix she developed. It's an invitation to join something called the Assembly, a collective of 317 spacefaring civilizations. They've been watching us, evaluating us. She swallowed hard. And they've decided we're now barely qualified for consideration. The silence that followed was absolute until a young analyst burst through the door, face ashen. "Sir, we're detecting a similar quantum signature on Mars. It just activated." "Another beacon?" the president asked. The analyst shook his head. "No, sir. It appears to be a response." 6 months of frantic preparation hadn't been enough. No amount of time could have been. Elena stood on the cracked earth of the Atacama Desert, the world's most sophisticated translation software embedded in her earpiece, watching as humanity's carefully orchestrated first contact plan disintegrated before it began. The superstorm had appeared out of nowhere 3 days ago, a meteorological impossibility that now engulfed most of the northern hemisphere. With originally designated landing sites inaccessible, the assembly delegation had simply chosen their own. "They're making a point," muttered Secretary General Okafor beside her, his formal attire already caked with desert dust. "They control the terms of engagement." Above them, the assembly vessel descended through cloudless blue sky. A structure that defied human architectural understanding. Not the sleek disk or perfect sphere of human imagination, but something more akin to a neural network made physical, branching tendrils of iridescent material connecting irregular nodules that pulsed with internal light. The ship extended no landing gear. It simply stopped, hovering 15 meters above the desert floor. "Show time," Elena whispered. The air beneath the vessel rippled, and 12 figures materialized without warning or theatrical effect. They simply weren't there, and then they were, arranged in a perfect semicircle facing the human delegation. Elena's xenobiology briefings hadn't prepared her for the reality. Each delegate represented a different species, their physiologies so divergent that she struggled to understand how they could exist in the same atmospheric conditions. The being in the central position, presumably the Orcs or ambassador, resembled nothing so much as a collection of translucent tentacles arranged around a central mass of pulsating tissue, suspended in a field of what appeared to be liquid mercury that somehow maintained its shape without containment. The Orcser's voice came not from any visible orifice, but seemed to materialize directly in Elena's mind, bypassing her earpiece entirely. "We arrived to witness the application of species designation, human," it intoned. "Our analysis indicates significant deviation from standard development patterns. You remain internally fractured, yet have achieved rudimentary spaceflight. Curious." Elena stepped forward as rehearsed, ready to deliver humanity's carefully crafted response, only to be completely ignored as the Orcs continued. "The assembly protocols establish clear procedures. Yet we find no unified planetary government. No standardized resource allocation system. Persistent territorial conflicts. A ripple of color passed through the mercury-like field surrounding it. We will evaluate your species through direct interaction with population segments rather than through these ceremonial representatives." The Secretary General stepped forward. "Ambassador, we've prepared extensive." "Your preparations are irrelevant," the Orcs interrupted. "Your leaders speak of unity they have not achieved. We will form our own assessment." Elena noticed something strange. As the Orcs spoke, subtle chromatic patterns rippled across the exoskeletons of 3 delegates positioned to its right. Patterns that weren't being translated. A second language, hidden in plain sight. She focused on the patterns, mentally recording the shifts and pulses, when the insectoid delegate at the far end of the semicircle turned its compound eyes directly toward her. Its mandibles shifted slightly, and Elena felt a chill of recognition. It knew she was watching, and it wanted her to see. "Dr. Reyes, your security clearance has been revoked, effective immediately." Elena stared at the armed guards blocking her office door, the contents of her desk already boxed and sealed with tamper-evident tape. Just 12 hours ago, she had been translating for the assembly delegation during their demonstration of atmospheric manipulation technology, a casual repair of Earth's ozone layer that had taken their ships less than 40 minutes. On whose authority? She demanded, though she already knew. "The Global First Contact Commission," the lead guard replied mechanically. "You're to remain under house arrest pending investigation into actions potentially endangering diplomatic relations." Elena felt oddly calm. She had known the risk when she directly questioned the Orcser about the color-based secondary communication she observed. The message she partially decoded that referred to humans as cognitive resources to be harvested. The guards escorted her to a nondescript government sit-in. The driver, face obscured by a regulation cap, said nothing as they pulled away from the research facility. 3 blocks later, the car unexpectedly turned down an alley, accelerated through a concealed garage door, and came to an abrupt stop in a concrete chamber. "They're tracking your government-issued phone and neural implant," said the driver, turning to reveal a face she recognized from intelligence briefings. "Major Jackson Cole, Special Operations Command. We have 90 seconds before perimeter alert." Elena didn't waste time with questions. She handed over both devices, which Cole immediately placed in a shielded container. My sister was on the Eras V mission to Mars, he said, leading her through a maintenance corridor. The one that officially failed due to life support malfunction 3 years ago. I remember, Elena said. 4 crew, total loss. Except I got a message from her last week. Cole's face was grim as he pressed his palm against a scanner hidden behind a ventilation panel. A section of wall slid away. She's alive. And she's on Mars. The hidden room contained a dozen people hunched over improvised workstations. One wall displayed a familiar signal pattern, the Mars transmission. A gray-haired woman approached. Dr. Reyes. I'm Dr. Helen Kwan, exobiology. We've been waiting for you. She gestured to the screens. The hacker who first intercepted this signal was right. It's human in origin, but not from any contemporary Earth language. Proto-Indo-European roots, Elena said, recognizing patterns immediately. Heavily modified, but clearly descended from Earth languages from approximately 15,000 years ago. Cole's expression hardened. That matches our theory. The assembly has visited Earth before. Many times. Dr. Kwan brought up another screen showing carbon dating results from archaeological sites worldwide. We found identical isotopic anomalies at megalithic sites across 6 continents. Something was removing humans from Earth long before recorded history. And some of them ended up on Mars, Elena whispered. Not just Mars, said a new voice. Elena turned to see a man emerge from the shadows of the room's far corner. His face was partially obscured by an environmental mask, but his eyes were unmistakably human despite their unusual violet hue. They've been breeding us for specific cognitive traits for millennia, he said, removing his mask to reveal facial features that seemed subtly wrong, too symmetrical, skin too perfect. I should know. I was born in an assembly laboratory. Cole approached the stranger. This is specimen 7. He defected from an assembly research station in the Kuiper Belt 2 years ago. The government's had him isolated in a deep black site facility. Until yesterday, 7 said with a thin smile, when your assembly friends demanded I be handed over to them as a stolen biological asset. They're lying to you. All of them. Kirinax, the insectoid assembly delegate who had sought asylum with Elena's group, chittered nervously as technicians removed the last of his exoskeletal communication devices. His translator implant had been temporarily disabled, forcing him to communicate through a crude mechanical device attached to his thorax. The Orcs don't govern the assembly, they farm it, the device translated in flat, emotionless tones that contrasted with his agitated movements. Each species is selectively bred and neurologically modified over generations until they develop specialized cognitive functions that can be harvested. Elena studied the alien carefully. 3 days in a makeshift bunker beneath the Atacama research station had done little to help her understand his physiology, but his fear was unmistakable. Harvested how? She asked. Kirinax's compound eyes flickered with bioluminescent patterns that the translator couldn't capture. His front limbs made complex gestures before settling. My species processes mathematical relationships instinctively. Pattern recognition on scales your computers cannot match. The Orcs extract this capacity through a process they call neural transference. They literally absorb our cognitive architecture into their communal consciousness. Dr. Kwan stepped forward with a neural imaging device. You're saying they eat your brains? Not physically, Kirinax responded. They maintain our bodies as processing units while transferring the output. We become biological components in their distributed intelligence network. Major Cole slammed his fist against the wall. And they want to do this to us? To humans? No. Kirinax's voice became even more agitated. You are different. Unique. In 50,000 cycles of assembly expansion, no species has ever been found with your neural architecture. Elena felt a chill. What's special about us? You simultaneously hold logical contradictions while maintaining emotional congruence. You create meaning from randomness. Your brains form connections that violate probability constraints. The aliens' limbs trembled. The Orcs don't want to farm humans, they want to become you. The room fell silent as security alarms suddenly blared. Cole rushed to Amonder. They found us. Assembly ships are positioning over major cities worldwide. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. The screens flickered to life, showing the Orcs ambassador. Its mercury-like containment field had expanded, pulsing with aggressive energy patterns. People of Earth, it began, its voice unnaturally smooth. Your elected representatives have authorized preliminary integration protocols. Resistance elements are spreading dangerous misinformation about the Assembly's purpose. The image shifted to show world leaders signing documents under the Assembly banner. To demonstrate our commitment to Earth's well-being, we have shared atmospheric regulation technology with your governments. This system now requires regular maintenance to prevent cascade failure. Compliance with Assembly protocols ensures this maintenance continues. Cole's face drained of color. They've taken our atmosphere hostage. It gets worse, said Seven, studying data flowing across another screen. The modifications they made aren't fixes, they're dependencies. If they withdraw support now, Earth's atmospheric composition will begin shifting toward higher greenhouse gas concentrations within weeks. The broadcast continued, the Orcs' form spreading to fill the screen. Those who have abducted Assembly representatives and spread falsehoods will surrender within 12 hours, or we will be forced to demonstrate the consequences of non-compliance on a limited geographical area. Kirnax's translator emitted a high-pitched whine of distress. They're going to make an example, he chittered, just as they did with the last species that questioned integration. They're lying to you. All of them. Kirnax, the insectoid assembly delegate who had sought asylum with Alina's group, chittered nervously as technicians removed the last of his exoskeletal communication devices. His translator implant had been temporarily disabled, forcing him to communicate through a crude mechanical device attached to his thorax. The Orcs don't govern the assembly, they farm it. The device translated in flat, emotionless tones that contrasted with his agitated movements. Each species is selectively bred and neurologically modified over generations until they develop specialized cognitive functions that can be harvested. Alina studied the alien carefully. 3 days in a makeshift bunker beneath the Atacama research station had done little to help her understand his physiology, but his fear was unmistakable. Harvested how? She asked. Kirnax's compound eyes flickered with bioluminescent patterns that the translator couldn't capture. His front limbs made complex gestures before settling. My species processes mathematical relationships instinctively. Pattern recognition on scales your computers cannot match. The Orcs extract this capacity through a process they call neural transference. They literally absorb our cognitive architecture into their communal consciousness. Dr. Kwan stepped forward with a neural imaging device. You're saying they eat your brains? Not physically, Kirnax responded. They maintain our bodies as processing units while transferring the output. We become biological components in their distributed intelligence network. Major Cole slammed his fist against the wall. And they want to do this to us? To humans? No. Kirnax's voice became even more agitated. You are different. Unique. In 50,000 cycles of assembly expansion, no species has ever been found with your neural architecture. Alina felt a chill. What's special about us? You simultaneously hold logical contradictions while maintaining emotional congruence. You create meaning from randomness. Your brains form connections that violate probability constraints. The aliens' limbs trembled. The Orcs don't want to farm humans, they want to become you. The room fell silent as security alarms suddenly blared. Cole rushed to Amonder. They found us. Assembly ships are positioning over major cities worldwide. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. The screens flickered to life, showing the Arcser ambassador. Its mercury-like containment field had expanded, pulsing with aggressive energy patterns. "People of Earth," it began, its voice unnaturally smooth. "Your elected representatives have authorized preliminary integration protocols. Resistance elements are spreading dangerous misinformation about the Assembly's purpose." The image shifted to show world leaders signing documents under the Assembly banner. "To demonstrate our commitment to Earth's well-being, we'd have shared atmospheric regulation technology with your governments. This system now requires regular maintenance to prevent cascade failure. Compliance with Assembly protocols ensures this maintenance continues." Cole's face drained of color. "They've taken our atmosphere hostage." "It gets worse," said Seven, studying data flowing across another screen. "The modifications they made aren't fixes. They're dependencies. If they withdraw support now, Earth's atmospheric composition will begin shifting toward higher greenhouse gas concentrations within weeks." The broadcast continued, the Arcser's form spreading to fill the screen. "Those who have abducted Assembly representatives and spread falsehoods will surrender within 12 hours, or we will be forced to demonstrate the consequences of non-compliance on a limited geographical area." Kirnax's translator emitted a high-pitched whine of distress. "They're going to make an example," he chittered, "just as they did with the last species that questioned integration." 3 weeks after their crash landing on Mars and subsequent discovery of Olympus Haven, Alina stood before a makeshift broadcast array on a devastated Earth. "This is Dr. Alina Reyes, speaking to all of humanity," she began, the neural enhancement technology from Haven humming against her temples. "I am transmitting simultaneously on all frequencies, protected by technology the Assembly cannot block." The global feed showed scenes of chaos. Nations had fractured into 3 distinct blocks: the Assembly alignment supporting integration, the Resistance preparing for futile warfare, and the emerging Autonomy Coalition backing Alina's third path. "I have returned from Mars with proof of the Assembly's true intentions," she continued. "For thousands of years, they have been abducting humans, experimenting on our cognitive abilities, and attempting to replicate our neural architecture." Behind her stood the survivors of their Mars mission, alongside several representatives from Olympus Haven who had volunteered to return to Earth. Descendants of humans taken millennia ago, their features subtly different after centuries of isolated evolution. "We are not merely another species to be harvested," Elena said. "We represent something the Assembly has never encountered and cannot replicate: the ability to hold logical contradictions while maintaining emotional resonance. What we call imagination, creativity, and intuition." The broadcast cut to footage from Haven's archives, recordings of previous Assembly harvesting operations on other worlds. The clinical efficiency of the process made it all the more horrifying. The atmospheric modifications were not benevolent, Alina explained, displaying technical data stolen from Assembly systems. "They've initiated a dependency cycle. Without their intervention every 6 months, our atmosphere will begin a cascading collapse." As if responding to her challenge, every communications device on Earth simultaneously activated with the Arcser ambassador's image. "Your allegations are correct," it stated simply, mercury-like substance flowing in complex patterns. "Your species possesses unique neural capabilities we have sought for millennia. But this is not exploitation. It is galactic harmony through specialization." The Arcser's containment field expanded, showing scenes of devastation from previous worlds. "Resistance is a predictable response from a species still governed by individualistic imperatives. Your rejection merely confirms your developmental stage." The ambassador's tone shifted, becoming almost gentle. "We have already begun atmospheric modification. In precisely 6 months, without our intervention, oxygen levels will decline 12%. In 9 months, global temperature will rise 5 degrees. In 12 months, the cascade becomes irreversible." Alina felt cold despair threatening to overwhelm her, until a soft chime from the neural enhancement device restored her focus. Data flowed through her consciousness, not imposed but invited, enhancing rather than controlling. Haven's engineers had designed it to amplify human cognition without surrendering autonomy. "There's something they don't know," whispered Seven, monitoring energy readings from the neural network they'd established. When multiple humans use the enhancement technology simultaneously, the quantum field generated is remarkably similar to assembly ship propulsion. Cole's eyes widened in understanding. "We can't fight their ships. But we might be able to neutralize their atmospheric modifications," Alina finished, a desperate plan forming. "Not through warfare, but through technological transcendence." The Arxer's image flickered as unusual energy patterns disrupted the broadcast. Its mercury field pulsed with what Alina now recognized as alarm. "What are you doing?" it demanded, its composure slipping for the first time. "That technology is prohibited. Cease immediately or face extinction-level response." "Neural network synchronization at 38% and climbing," Dr. Kwan announced, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. The Geneva Neural Hub, hastily constructed in the underground CERN facilities, hummed with energy as thousands of volunteers connected to Haven's enhancement technology. Through a global network of satellite relays, millions more were joining every hour, their collective consciousness forming something unprecedented in human history. A distributed quantum field that was beginning to counteract the assembly's atmospheric manipulations. Alina monitored the primary interface, her own mind partially submerged in the network's flow. The experience wasn't one of losing herself, but of becoming more. Individual consciousness preserved while accessing a vast ocean of shared insight. "Assembly ships repositioning," Cole reported from the tactical station. 17 vessels moving to geosynchronous orbit above major hub locations. Outside, Geneva burned. The Assembly's sleeper agents, humans modified during previous abductions, had launched coordinated attacks against network infrastructure worldwide. Military forces loyal to the Autonomy Coalition fought desperately to protect the remaining hubs. Field strength increasing, Seven observed, his enhanced physiology allowing him to perceive quantum fluctuations directly. The atmospheric composition is stabilizing in affected regions. A proximity alarm wailed. Alina's consciousness snapped fully back to her physical surroundings as security barriers throughout the facility began to fail. "They've breached sublevel 3, shouted a security officer, her weapon ready. "Multiple hostiles, moving fast." Cole checked the internal sensors and paled. "They're being led by someone using assembly tech. Quantum signature matches an Arxer auxiliary." The security team moved to defensive positions as explosions rocked the lower levels. Alina knew they couldn't evacuate. The neural hub required constant supervision to maintain stability. "If they destroy this facility before the network reaches critical mass, we lose everything." Kernax chittered, his exoskeleton now modified with human technology that allowed him greater integration with their systems. "I'll slow them down," Cole said quietly, checking his weapon. "The junction between levels 2 and 3 is a natural bottleneck. I can hold it long enough for the network to reach 50%. Alina looked at him sharply. "That's a suicide mission." Cole's grim smile confirmed what she already knew. "My sister believed submission was our only chance. I need to prove her wrong." Before Alina could respond, Cole was moving toward the exit. He paused at the door, looking back one last time. "The neural network is showing something none of us expected," he said. "Human consciousness doesn't just resist assembly control, it transforms it. Keep pushing." The door sealed behind him as another explosion shook the facility. On the main screen, a global map showed the neural network's spread. Points of light representing connected humans, forming a constellation that grew brighter by the second. Where the quantum field strengthened, assembly influence diminished. "They're targeting network nodes worldwide," reported an analyst. "Brussels hub is down. Seoul under heavy attack. Mumbai holding but isolated." The facility rocked with the closest explosion yet. The lights flickered ominously. Cole's engaging the hostiles. Someone reported from the security station. Wait. There's someone with him. A woman. Alina felt a chill. Visual confirmation. The security feed flickered to life, showing Cole facing a slender woman whose eyes glowed with mercury light. Adapted form complete, the woman said, her voice layered with alien harmonics. This human connection facilitates understanding. Hello, brother.